Hi, everybody. This is Mrs. Proctor with Chapter 3 Closure Review. The meowing you hear in the background is my cat Duncan. He wants some attention, and unfortunately, the dog is sitting next to me, so he can't get over here till the dog gets off the couch. So we've got a cat meowing. Okay, anyway, here we go. There's a few things we want to go over before you work on the Chapter 3 closure as we get ready for our e-learning coming up next week. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Okay, so one of the things they talk about in the closure is finding equivalent fractions. And we want to remind ourselves that the giant 1 is a great way to find an equivalent fraction. So here we have a 3/4, and we want to make an equivalent fraction of something over 44. So if we make our giant 1, that sets us up for a nice multiplication problem. We need to find out 4 times what is 44. Oh, here comes the cat. We're going to have him too. 4 times 11 is 44. And if the denominator is 11, then the numerator has to be 11 because that makes it a 1. 11 over 11. 3 times 11 is 33. Yes, Duncan. Class will probably be like this too. The dog and the cat will be joining us for some of our Zooming or whatever we're going to end up doing. I wanted to include this one to show you that the 1 can be on the other side of the equal sign. That's okay too, right? We're going to make something actually smaller. So we need to figure out how do we get 18 down to 3. If we put the 1 on this side, we can just think backwards. 3 times what is 18? 3 times 6. Or we could have thought about 18 divided by what is 3. But I like to think backwards and keep it multiplying. So the 72, we know the 6 is in the denominator because it has to be 6 over 6. So what times 6 is 72? Well, I know if it was a 10, that would be 60. That's 12 short. So that'd be 2 more 6s. So that would be 12. The 12th is an equivalent fraction. And we have solved that problem. So those are a few problems on there. That's how you do them. That's how we use our giant 1. And I think this actually was probably the first chapter with the giant 1. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So another thing they want us to do is simplify. And I picked out a fraction problem here to simplify. One of the ways that we talked about was to chop it in half, because it's even numbers until you get it to one that's small enough that you can recognize a common factor. Another way you can do it is list all those common factors of both the numerator and the denominator. So that's what I've done down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. Those are the common factors of 24. I've listed the common factors of 36. Then I want to go through and find the largest common factor that I can find, and that is a 12. I could use a smaller common factor, but then I'd have to keep simplifying. It wouldn't get me all the way. So 12 is the largest common factor that they share. So I can either do what I've done right here, which is interesting. If you remember, maybe you don't, that you can set 24 is 2 times 12. 36 is 3 times 12. We know that's 12 because of there. And then all of a sudden, if you recognize it, there's your giant 1. So then it becomes 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 1 is 3. So our answer is 2/3. We have simplified it as far as we can go. Now, if that is a little too much for you, that's okay, right? You can go here and just start chopping it up. So I know 12, 18. And then I know both of these have a 3. So I could do 4, 6. And I know I can cut those in half. And that gets me 2/3 as well. So like everything we do in math, gotta move the cat. He's in front of my face. Everything we do in math, there's more than one way to get it. Snuggle up, Duncan. There you go, bud. Okay, he's happy now. 2/3. Find my little thing here. There we go. And we get 2/3. So there's more than one way to solve it. Find the way that works for you and use it. Okay, that's the great thing about math. There's more than one way to get the answer. Portion webs. Okay, so I have 2 portion webs to remind us how to do these. We're changing decimals to fractions to percent. And we want to do that because we never know when one is going to be easier than the other to solve problems. And we've learned that moving forward. So in this case, the decimal is 0.56. We know as a fraction, we read the number, which is 56, can be the top of our fraction. And then we want to take a look at where it stops in our place value chart. So it's 56, and it's the hundredths place because we go 10th, hundredth. So that means it is 56 over 100. That fraction is just fine. We know it can be reduced, but we don't have to worry about that. It just says a fraction. It doesn't say the most reduced fraction. The really nice thing about that is we know percent means per, that's your fraction bar, cent, that's the hundred. So we know if it's over 100, it's just the top number. We've already got it, 56%. Now, words or pictures, you can draw this out, or you can write down what you say. When you say it, what do you hear? All right, normally I would type this out for you, but the cat is blocking my keyboard. So I could say 5600, and then I would write out 5600. That'd be that ETH, right? The spitting sound. We know that it's a decimal because it's that spitting sound. And again, I don't care about your spelling, so just sound it out, do the best you can. On this 3%, I wanted to include this one because it's a small percentage. It's 3, a single digit percentage. And we know that 3%, it means it's over 100. So we write our fraction bar, put 100 in the denominator, and then we just put the number that's here on top. And that would be 3. All right, a lot of times we get confused and we want to make that 30 over 100. It's not, it's just 3. And then as a decimal, we know that we can say it 3 hundredths. That means there has to be a 3 in the hundredths place. Because it's a single digit, we have to put a 0 here so we get it in the right place value. So it's not 3/10, it's 3 hundredths. And then we could write it or draw pictures right here. So I might type out or write 3%. That's how you spell percent, but it doesn't matter to me because you know I'm the world's worst speller. Okay, last but not least, I just wanted to refresh you guys on adding and subtracting fractions because we've done so much work lately on multiplying and dividing, which does not require a common denominator now that we know flip and multiply for division. So I want to remind you that when we add or subtract, we absolutely have to have a common denominator. So this is one way that you can find that common denominator is if you find the multiples and then find the multiples that they share. So multiples is like multiplication. So we start with the denominator. If we keep adding it to itself, 4 is 4 times 1. If we add 4, that's 4 times 2, that'd be 8. I forgot that, so let's sneak that in there. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 4 more is 16, 20, 24, 28. Same thing with 6, 6, 12, 18, 24. I usually go 4 or 5 out just to see what I'm getting. Now this one's interesting, right? Because if you take a really good look, we've got 12 and we've got 24. Now you can use either one, but in this case, we want to use the least common multiple, and that's 12. That way we don't have to spend time reducing fractions after we get our answer. So I could use 24 as my denominator. As long as I reduce, I'm going to get the same answer. so now that I've decided that I'm going to use a common denominator of 12, I set it up with my giant 1 next to both of my fractions so I can make them equivalent. So for 4, to get that to 12, I have to multiply by 3. 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top, the numerator. And I do the same thing for the 1/6. I've got 6 times 2, which means my numerator is also 2. And when I multiply them out, my 3/4 becomes equivalent to 9/12. My 1/6 becomes equivalent to 2/12. And now I'm ready to subtract. And I subtract across the top. 9 minus 2 is 7. And then the bottom number, because it's common and we're adding or subtracting, we slide it across to the bottom. And it stays the same. 7/12. And that's our answer. And we don't have to reduce it. This is 7 is a prime number, and it is not a factor of 12. So there's nothing more to do to it. We have what we're looking for. Okay, so I hope all of that helps. I just saw a video from our principals about the busy day I'm going to be having on Monday. So enjoy this, and I look forward to finding out all the things I need to do so we can get back to seeing each other and doing some e-learning, which should be pretty exciting. So I will talk to you guys on Tuesday.